Family, welcome to the continuation of our interaction with Ricky Gervais on Ricky Gervais's best arguments against religion. We're going to start at an area that we talked about last time, so I'm not going to go over it again in this video. Guys, without any further ado, like, share, subscribe if you are into this content, and please interact with me in the comments. Let me know what I'm missing. I am biased. I admit that from the jump. And look, without any further ado, let's get back into Ricky Gervais.
All those others are going to hell, but I was born into the right religion. I'm going to heaven. It's strange that we hold on to these sort of medieval beliefs. You know, where did the universe come from? God made it, which doesn't solve the problem for me, because we straight away say, well, who made God?
Yeah, you know, when we're talking about reduction bases in metaphysics, it doesn't make any, if by universe we mean space and time, we mean space-time, then it doesn't make sense to put a priority in time in front of the creator of space and time. Does that make sense? So it's just kind of elementary thinking to say, who created the creator of time? It's almost like saying, when? So it's like, at what time was the creator of time created? Well, the answer is clearly, there is some uncaused cause, and that's typically, not controversial.
And if they say, well, he's always been around, well, let's just say the universe has then. Let's just cut out the middleman.
Right, but we know the universe hasn't because of science, right? Like, I think the Big Bang is the paradigm of contemporary cosmology. The universe is 14.7 billion years old. And then, if you say, well, I mean, look, we don't know how far back the singularity goes, and it's not necessarily the beginning of space and time, but it's just, when things kind of become so minute that our physics kind of breaks down, then you get into the metaphysical impossibility of an infinite regress, an actual infinite regress, as opposed to a potential infinite. And, that's kind of really spelled out well in the debate between William Lane Craig and Alex Malpass. But let's continue. Let's let them cook.
Dogma is the dangerous bit, and it doesn't just exist in religion. It exists in more and more places now. That cultism, that which shouldn't be questioned. Anything that, that's what you want to question. If someone says you shouldn't question this, you've got to question it.
I agree with Ricky Gervais here, but this is kind of another. I wonder what. We're clearly not living in the same universe, because I am a questioner of everything. I'm a questioner. I consider myself a skeptic. So when he says there are religions which ban you against questioning, I don't see that as being. I don't know what church you can go into and say, hey, am I allowed to ask questions? And they go, shh, no, do not ask questions. Stop asking so many questions. I mean, and maybe share your experiences. If I'm an outlier, I'm willing to accept that, maybe it's just me.
Got to question it. It should be irrelevant, but it isn't, because it does infringe on people's liberties. Certainly religion, not spirituality. Someone believing in God, that's fine.
Harmless.
Absolutely, doesn't bother me at all. Religion isn't harmless. It's when your God starts telling you that you should kill homosexuals, and
exactly.
That's when it's not harmless anymore.
When religion tells you should kill homosexuals, I don't know. I mean, you know what? I think he might be talking about Islam, where I think in certain Islamic governments, homosexuality is illegal. Atheism, I think in Saudi Arabia, they consider atheism is like terrorism. So there are some crazy religious sects where this does happen.
Most religious people aren't crazy. It's something else. Again, it's something, And we worry about the people who believe the bad bits in their holy book as well as the good bits. Most nice people who believe in God, they can tell the difference. They know the nice, they cherry pick and they know the nice bits from the bad bits. They don't do the bad bits. And my point is, if you know the bad bits from the good bits, you don't need the holy book. You know, you're already a moral person.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing. And I've always kind of said, and I think it was Reza Aslan, who is a Muslim apologist and a Muslim thinker. He said the Bible is not a codification. No, the Bible is not a substitute for your conscience. It's a codification of it. So I would agree with Ricky Gervais here. It's like the Bible isn't something that you open up and you go, oh, I shouldn't kill? Why didn't someone give me this book before? It's like it's a codification. Which is the same as any enlightening thing or any insight you get. You know, when you have that moment, it's something that you already knew that was right under your nose, right?
I think it's very important you challenge your own beliefs. I mean that's what science does, really. It doesn't constantly try and prove itself right. It follows the evidence, whatever that is. In fact, it tries to prove itself wrong. It doesn't sulk. When science thinks something and then it discovers it was wrong, it doesn't sulk because it found that out too.
It annoys me just a little bit when people talk about science as if it's a person, right? Scientists, some of the best scientists, the paradigm shifters, Albert Einstein, for instance, was very biased and made scientific blunders based on his unwillingness to look at the facts as they are. I think one of the examples is, what realism, right? I think Einstein died a local realist, and we've proven that false. That either locality or statistical independence is false. But the reason that Einstein was so stubborn on that is because he assumed that in the future, they'd find things that kind of bore out his theories and his ideas. He was unwilling to look at quantum mechanics. And, he would say things, spooky action at a distance, spookhaft, which is, I think, the German word. He hated the idea that, what are you saying? The moon is not there when I stop looking at it. These things kind of spooked him out and was like, I don't want to go there. And whether or not you disagree with my interpretation of Einstein back then, you have to understand scientists are just human beings full of the same biases that we do. The Nazis had scientists that were doing evil experiments on people. Same thing as the Russian scientists during that same time period. It's science isn't the answer to all problems, Mr. Gervais.
It's the question I often get, that people say, well, you're an atheist, you're closed-minded. No, I'm not. That's a strange thing to say. I think the opposite is true. I'm going to always follow the evidence, whatever that is. And they say things like,
I'm going to always follow the evidence. Reason is and ought to be a slave to the passions. This was David Hume, right? You can't just follow the evidence, right? Have you ever been to one of those football games where, there's a tackle on the 1 yard line and both teams start celebrating because the team that was stopped think that they made the touchdown, and the team that did the stopping thinks that it was a stop, right? It's like, it's the 1 yard line. It's like everyone has access to the same evidence, but they interpret it based on their bias, right? And we've known this for a long time. You can't simply follow the evidence and say, oh, I have no myth guiding the facts. It's the same mistake that Richard Dawkins made in his discussion with Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson said, I'm a man of facts and you're a man of myth. Peterson ironically agreed. But the thing that Richard Dawkins forgot is that we cannot possibly have access to all the facts. There are too many. Just sitting here on my desk, I wish I could pan the camera down and actually show you. My desk is kind of messy. It's a bit cluttered. There are too many facts in any room, in any situation, to actually contend with all of them. And so the reason we have myths is so that we can organize the fact, so that we know what to ignore, so that we know what to foreground and what to background. So you can't say, oh, I'm just a man of facts. It's like, no, you're not. You know, if you had access to all the facts, you would be paralyzed by the complexity of it. You're ignoring the majority of the facts, and that is what your myth is. Your myth are the facts that you decide to foreground and background for the sake of your continuity, for the sake of the completion of your evolutionary chores, right? Feeding, fighting, fleeing, reproducing, and the rest of it.
If someone proved to you God existed, would you believe? Well, of course I would, by definition.
No. No. No, it's not by definition. It's not as if when someone proves something, that changes your psychological state. A belief is a psychological state, right? Someone can have an amazing proof. Someone can prove to me that the earth is round, and that doesn't change my psychological state as a flat earther, let's say. As a matter of fact, there's tons of scientific research suggesting that stories work well to change someone's beliefs than do arguments, specifically formal arguments like syllogisms, premise, conclusion. Those kind of arguments do not work to convince.
In fact, it would be the greatest scientific discovery of all time. Scientists would celebrate. They'd run round. At the moment, we have no evidence for the existence of any God.
That's patently untrue. Arguments for the existence of God go back thousands of years. They might not be the type of evidence that convinces a Ricky Gervais, and that's fair. Maybe Ricky Gervais can say, you know, all of this evidence is bad evidence. But it's a very strange thing to suggest that there is no evidence for the existence of. Of course there is. And that's the reason that debates can happen. It's a very strange thing. It's almost as if he's not familiar with, you know, arguments going all the way back to St. Augustine and all the way to the I think apologetics was a part of ancient Greek thought, right? So does he just say arguments, no matter how cogent, don't count as evidence? Because for me, evidence is anything which increases the likelihood of a particular, statement being true. If it increases the likelihood, then it counts as evidence, right? Even if it increases the outcome minimally. But it's not as if it only counts as evidence if it can convince Ricky Gervais. No.
Or anything supernatural. Never have. Possibly never will. But who knows?
Well, supernatural is also a term from the 1500s, I believe. The term supernatural doesn't occur in the Bible or the Lotus Sutra, or I don't even think the word supernatural is anywhere in the Quran. And so he's saying, evidence of the supernatural. What do you mean? Guys, am I being a little bit too? I mean, I know I'm pausing it a ton now, but I'm reaching a point where I disagree a lot and rather seriously at this point. Maybe this is a good stopping point to get us into the next 2 videos. So I'm going to be doing 2 more videos. I promise I will shut up a little bit more with the next 2 videos. Thanks for hanging around.